Federico, thank you so much for joining FF News' coverage of the Paris Fintech Forum Leadership Summit. How are you?
Good morning, I'm good, thank you. We're here in sunny Paris.
Isn't it incredible? Now, Laurent has put on such a brilliant show. What's really caught your eye? What's made you fall in love with this event?
I think the small nature of it really helps to connect again with people you already know, also new faces, or people you had met during the pandemic digitally, which now finally are back in Paris for this leaders summit. Yeah.
Nice. So could you tell our audience a bit more about Novicap, please?
Novicap is what we like to call the end-to-end system for working capital management and financing. So we work with SMEs, mid-market companies and public administrations to help them, first of all, get a view on their working capital in a holistic way, and then also optimize and potentially also finance it. Where needed, also injecting the much needed working capital for those businesses.
Absolutely brilliant. And in the time of the fintech realignment, how important has working capital been? I mean, it's always the number one thing that people can think of is that liquidity. Is it even more important now?
It very much is. We're at a 7-year low in terms of venture capital funding in the European market. And as such, many more companies are also looking at what are the options across the entire capital structure. What can you do beyond, let's say, the typical equity and debt instruments? And so working capital management and financing has never been as high on the agenda for CFOs, for treasuries. And as such, we believe the European market, where we are active, is definitely warming up to the idea to have a fintech helping you to manage and finance your working capital.
Incredible. And I mean, with that in mind, how are you more agile than some of the traditional institutions? That when people think of working capital, think of banks. How do you come in there and help overturn that?
Yeah. So we don't necessarily compete with banks. What we've been really good at is building our systems, all our tech from the internet up. That means that we don't have the legacy, we don't have those economics which are typically very hard for banks to make profitable in the SME or in the small business segment. Think about onboarding, think about customer due diligence, risk monitoring.
Yeah.
These are areas which banks have tried to build up over the last decades, but they have a lot of legacy, and that makes it the cost-income ratio in that segment typically very difficult to get right. And so we've obviously started with a clean slate, taking some inspiration from banks, but also with a very fresh approach when it comes to systems, when it comes to the economics in this segment, and as such we can also make this profitable.
Perfect. Now you've led me on to my next question, and that is the fact that our audience very much make up this segment. So how do you enter into this industry in particular and help working capital?
So we focus both on credit products and payments products. And so on the credit side, we work with businesses to finance their receivables. So think about their long-dated unpaid invoices with typically big clients, because obviously they have a lot of negotiation power. If, let's take, we're in Paris today here, if you sell to your supplier to Carrefour, you'll be paid on terms, and those terms can be 60, 90, 120 days.
Wow, over a month to get paid.
And so for a small business, for a small supplier, that's very taxing because your expenses are typically on a monthly basis, sometimes even on a daily basis. Think about your VAT, your employees, your own suppliers that you have to pay. And so that's something we first of all bridge. So we provide an early payment at a small discount on that receivable. Then with mid-market businesses, so these are a little bit more established companies, we also typically finance their payables. So we help them to provide supply chain financing for their suppliers. And this again provides working capital for their suppliers, also lowering the risk in the supply chain, which is a very important element these days, also under ESG. And then the third product we have is a 12-month revolving working capital loan, which is for businesses who need more working capital, but they don't necessarily have the receivables and they want to put up a different type of collateral. And then on the payment side, we provide a product which helps treasuries, CFOs, to optimize their working capital in a holistic way, utilizing and leveraging their existing bank facilities.
Oh, wow.
Let me give you an example. So for instance, you're a mid-market business which has access to a BNP Paribas credit line, and that comes at 2.5% APR over base rate. Let's take this as an example. You have a certain headroom, you have a certain availability of capital with that bank, and you're underutilizing the facility. Well, we can instruct you after analyzing your company in a 360-degree fashion when it comes to working capital, we can instruct you to draw down on that facility because we know your suppliers are going to accept an early payment discount at a cost which is higher than your weighted average cost of capital or the cost on that credit facility. And this is what we would call balance sheet arbitrage, and it's in fact our fastest growing product in Europe, and it's a pure payments product.
Absolutely amazing. Now, what are some of the sizes of companies that we're looking at that can utilize your services?
So broadly speaking, is SMEs. So we have both small businesses, which are typically up to 50 million in revenue. We don't necessarily deal with too many startups, so typically we're agnostic in terms of industry.
Sure.
So it's not necessarily SaaS or e-commerce businesses. We are in fact agnostic, so that means that we have services businesses, we have manufacturing, you name it, so it's all part of the portfolio. So that also allows us to spread the risk more homogeneously rather than taking very concentrated bets. And then mid-market businesses for us, we define them in Europe up to 5 billion in annual sales and annual revenue.
Absolutely incredible. And lastly, I just want to say a massive thank you. It's been really fascinating hearing your insights and how you can help businesses really kind of thrive and succeed when sometimes they don't get favorable terms from those large suppliers. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for everything.